Let me say something about all of this. First, before we move to look at these three different types of trees, let me say a word about man as part of nature. Because this is another area where, there are things that our culture has said to us and convinced us of that we just sort of hold on and believe. We think about it uncritically. And so this sort of green movement, the environmental movement, which is a religious movement, by the way. Environmentalism is religious at its core, and it's about earth worship. It's about Gaia worship. It's about worshiping the earth as a female deity. Okay? It's religious in its nature. And part of the theology of this movement is that man is not a part of nature. There's nature, and then there's man. And man interferes with nature. And so within the green movement, and just think about it, the green movement is always trying to mitigate man's negative impact on nature. That's like trying to mitigate my right hand's negative impact on Voddie. Do you follow me? When did my right hand stop being Voddie? When did man stop being part of nature? It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's the assumption of our day. There's nature, and then there's man. And what we need to do is sort of separate man from nature. So there need to be parts of nature that man is not allowed to mess around with, because nature's always better off apart from man. That's the opposite of what the Bible says is true. According to God in creation, nature's better off with man. By the way, also according to common sense, folks, plants yield far more when we cultivate them than they do when we don't. Amen, somebody. There are beautiful things out there in nature, but there are awe-inspiring things man has created with these. And there's nothing else out there. There's stuff in nature that builds, right? Beavers build dams. Not like ours. Beavers build dams indiscriminately. Beavers build dams that do great harm, in fact. And oftentimes, you've got to remove the dams that beavers build so that you can get water to places that need water, because the beavers aren't thinking about, hey, what are you doing? I'm building a dam. Why are you building a dam? Because I'm a beaver. Why are you building it right here? I was here, the stuff was here. Why are you asking me these questions, man? You gonna help me or you gonna, But when we do it with a purpose. And we do it with an excellence. We are part of nature, and secondly, this world that we live in is better because of us, not worse off because of us. Now, are there people who don't understand the biblical synergistic relationship between us and this world around us? Yeah, sure there are. There are those people, and they do things that are harmful. But the fact of the matter is, that's because they're not paying attention to biblical truth and these creation ordinances. Not because they don't worship the earth. That's ridiculous. Well, we shouldn't be doing all this mining. Really? Look at the next verse, verse 10. A river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and there it divided and became 4 rivers. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one that flowed around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. Why do we need to know that? Well, just because. You just need to know it because. Yeah, but Why do we need to know that? Because in order to fully appreciate it, you've got to go get it. And if we weren't intended to go and get it, and it was just intended to sort of just lie there, why tell us it's there? I mean, there's rocks. It doesn't say, in that land there's mud. No, it says there's gold. Keep reading. And the gold of that land is good. Bdellium, onyx stone are there. Just so you can know. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that flowed around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is the Tigris, flowed east of Assyria, and the fourth river is the Euphrates. Why do we need to know that those things are there? Why do we need to know that there is a distinction between the good version of it and the not as good version of it, if we're just supposed to leave it alone? Here's the other thing. This synergistic relationship between man and creation also gives us answers to other questions. Evolutionists would like us to believe that, the fact that there's, 90-some% congruity between our genes and genes of primates, well, that's evidence that we evolved from them. There's 90-some% congruity between us and mice, too, by the way, which is why we use them oftentimes in medical experiments, right? In fact, there's 90-some% congruity between us and almost everything. Why? Because we're all made from the same stuff. Here's what's interesting. Why is it deemed intelligent and scholarly if you theorize that, we went from, single-cell organisms to us through, time and chance and whatever, natural selection? Why is that deemed as brilliant? Whereas saying, if God made the earth out of stuff, and then he made the animals out of the same stuff, and then he made us out of the same stuff that he used to make the animals, then you would find the same stuff in us that you find in the animal. I don't need evolution for that to make sense. Right? I don't need evolution for that to make sense. In fact, I can make more sense of it, because here's how it makes sense to me. God intended, one of the purposes of the trees was that they would be good for food. That's one category of tree, the trees that are good for food. If we're not made of the same stuff, we can't eat the trees or the fruit from the trees, right? I mean, if we just sort of landed on a planet somewhere where there were things there, let's think, there's a planet out there somewhere, it's made up of stuff that's completely different than the stuff that we're made up of, and there's plants there, we wouldn't be able to eat those things. Category of tree number one. These trees that are good for food. These make the most sense to us. And in our understanding of work, they fit. Our understanding of work is not informed by our theology. They fit, right? God intends for us to work, and the purpose of our work is for us to provide for ourselves and our families. That's really simple. Go to work. Why? So you can provide for yourself and your family. Go to work so you can make money, so that you can have the things that you need. This makes sense, right? that's not the only category of tree. He wants Adam to understand his duty and his responsibility to him. And we understand that throughout the scriptures. But there's also trees. Look at the first part of this. Every tree that is pleasant to the sight. Adam, there's three categories of trees here. We're going to start real simple. These trees, they have fruit. That's good for you. You need to eat. This is the stuff that you eat. I put these here so that you can eat. Take care of these, cultivate them. They will produce for you, for your family, for your children, for your children's children. Teach them how to cultivate, and you can eat. You can eat, you can eat, you can eat. You will always be able to eat because I've provided these things for you in order to be able to do that. Real simple, right? Yep. Second category of trees. We eat this? No, I didn't make these for you to eat. What'd you make these for? So that you would know what beauty is. Well, I thought beauty was in the eye of the beholder. No. That would mean that the beholder is God. I'm God. I determine what's beautiful. And I put these things here so that you and your offspring could develop aesthetics. And that you could determine objectively what is beautiful and what is not by paying attention to the things that I put into creation for the sake of their beauty. Man doesn't get to determine what's beautiful. God does. God does. And we can talk objectively about aesthetics because of the God who created the world. And there are things in the world that God made, and you stand back and you look, and it's not, that's not there for me to eat. Right? I mean, you stand in front of something like, the Grand Canyon, or you stand in front of something like the Himalayas, and you don't just stand there going, I wonder how God intended for us to consume that. Certain birds, they just don't taste good, but they're pretty. There are things that God put in the world in order to teach us. It's beautiful. What is beautiful? There is an aspect of our work where we need to think about providing for ourselves and for our family. And we need to think about doing things in a way that we can provide for ourselves and our family. This generation and the next. By the way, this is where the biblical concept of stewardship and conservation comes from, right? So it's not that you're either, a tree-hugging, Gaia-worshiping greenie or, cut down everything and make the whole world a parking lot. There's something in between. And it is the idea that God has made this world for us to enjoy. There are things that he has placed in the world for us to consume and enjoy. And it's best for us to do it in such a way that future generations can enjoy them as well. Makes sense, right? This is great. The fruit from these trees are great. Awesome. Let's just cut them. Let's eat all the fruit off of them, and then let's just cut all of them down. Okay, well, see, if we did that, then we wouldn't be able to eat fruit from it anymore. So why don't we have these over here that we kind of eat from, and then maybe some of these over here that grow really rapidly and don't produce anything for us to eat. How about we cut those down? You got to be a tree hugger to do that? Hunting is big where I come from. There's some stuff you shoot. There's some stuff you don't. And an experienced hunter, when he goes out, he'll be the main one to tell you, yep, you can take that one, not that one. Why? What is the reason for that? This one right here we want to reproduce. And if we just wipe out the herd, we don't get to hunt them anymore. So we do it in a responsible way. See, this works without leaving biblical truth behind. Okay? There's a third type of truth. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. These trees are not trees that are designed to produce for us to eat, to feed ourselves, feed our family. They're not there necessarily in order to teach us aesthetics, although I'm certain that they are beautiful. But these trees are to teach us that our work must also have ethics. Not all work is good work. Will the tree of the knowledge of good and evil feed you? Yes. But at a price. So now, here we have truth, beauty, and goodness in Genesis chapter 2. And we have the groundwork for a theology of work itself that gives us truth, beauty, and goodness, and helps us to understand what it means for us to be men who work as godly men and who pursue truth, beauty, and goodness in our work. This is hugely different than men who just go out thinking of nothing other than consume and enjoy, consume and enjoy, consume and enjoy. Here's the question. How are you pursuing aesthetics in your work? How are you using whatever it is that you do in order to bring about God's glory? By the way, there are sayings that have developed around some of these ideas. If a job's worth doing, it's worth doing right, or it's worth doing well, right? Take pride in your work. Where do these things come from? From this very idea. We're not just beasts who go about grabbing and consuming with no thought to truth, beauty, and goodness. That's not who we are. That's not who we were created to be, and that's not whom God informed us that we are to be. He informs us that even in our working, we are to pursue truth, beauty, and goodness in the kind of work that we do and in the way that we do our work. This gets us to that last area as well. Go with me to that last paragraph, beginning verse 15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, you may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Here's the picture of the relationship between the man and his God. So we see this relationship, and again, these things sort of overlap. The relationship between a man and his work. What is our work about? Our work is about truth, beauty, and goodness. We work so that we can provide for ourselves and for our family. So we even do our work in such a way that we're thinking long term about how these things are going to provide for ourselves and for our family. We think about truth, beauty, and goodness in our work. We think about what we're contributing to truth, beauty, and goodness, or whether or not our work is compromising truth, beauty, and goodness, in which case it's not good work if it's causing us to compromise truth, beauty, and goodness. So this is the aspect of our work. But when you get to the ethical part of it, now you're connecting to this relationship between a man and his God. God is the one who commands us how we ought to live. Not just how we ought to work, but how we ought to live, period. God instructs the man, and he instructs him clearly. Here's the world. And by the way, God doesn't give us the kind of instructions that basically, turn us into these kind of, roadmap following, rule. He doesn't do that to Adam. He doesn't say, for the first 15 minutes that you're up, you do this. For the next 15 minutes, you do this. For the next 15 minutes, you do that. Then you take an hour to do this. Then you take an hour. He doesn't do that. He says, here's the world. Here's why I made it and how I made it. Now, take the image of God that is in you and these parameters and go have at it. Go have at it. So many times we forget this. Because we believe that, really being a Christian means that you don't do that. You don't just go have at it. Because really being godly, how many times does somebody come up and, Pastor, I just really need you to pray for me. Why do you need me to pray for you? Well, because I'm looking, I've been looking for a job and I have these opportunities and, there's this opportunity over here and it would be a good job and it would be a decent job and da-da-da. But there's this other opportunity over here and it really suits the passions and desires that I have and it's close to my family and there's several things about it that I like and it's in a place that I really love. I'm like, you don't need me to pray for you, you need me to help you pack. But you know why they want me to pray for them? Because they're terrified that if they go do this one, they'll just be following their flesh. Because when you're really godly, you do stuff that you don't like. I mean, everybody knows real Christians are supposed to be miserable. So, Pastor, I think I'm doing something wrong. Why? Well, because I have an opportunity to do something that delights me. You mean almost like God's given you the desires of your heart? Yeah, like that. Oh, we don't want that. Again, I understand what we're worried about. I understand what we're afraid of. And it's very important for us to not just people who just live and follow after the flesh. But this theological idea that somehow real Christianity will always put you in a position where that thing that sort of lines up for you and does all that's probably the devil right there. That sounds like something the devil would do right there. Just line stuff up with your passions and your gifts and your desires and all that other stuff. Yeah, that's it. That's the devil right there. You need to run. God says, go have it. I'll let you know what you need to know. And I'll put the limits where the limits need to be. But if I haven't said that this is where the limit is, then go. Well, what if I mess up? Learn from it. And then go again. Right? And again, we're not talking about sinfulness here. Okay? We're not talking about sinfulness here. And let me say this. Let me say this to a man right here today. Because in a crowd this size, there's a man here today. And there's ladies here. I see y'all. There's ladies in here. I see y'all. Just sitting there like, but because somebody needs to hear this. Somebody needs to hear that it's okay that you failed. That doesn't necessarily mean that you sin. Now, if you sin, you know who you are. I'm not talking to you right now. Okay? I'm not talking about the person who did something sinful and you're suffering the consequences for it. I'm talking about the person who was passionate about something and who went after that thing that they were passionate about, desiring to serve and honor the Lord, and you fell flat on your face. Here's what you don't do. you don't just assume that that means you missed God. Because here's what living a long time and getting some gray hair will teach you. Some of the most successful and God-honoring people in the world are people who do things today having been informed by the times when they fell flat on their face. God uses that. Amen? Amen? Where did we get this idea that if you're a true Christian, you're never going to have to hit the restart button. If you're a true Christian, you don't need autocorrect. By the way, sometimes that is the devil. Right? Amen. You can send somebody, I've sent some people stuff that not that it was, bad or this, that, it just didn't make sense. And then right back going, what? In fact, I had it, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but I had it so bad one time where it had been a couple of days before somebody responded to me. And autocorrect had done something, and they sent it back and asked me what I meant, and I had forgotten, and I couldn't figure it out. That's not how the Christian life operates. You can go in an absolute godly direction and find yourself in a situation where you've fallen flat on your face. And you get up and you move on. And it's not until way later on in the game that you realize, you know what? Here's what I needed to learn. Because it wasn't sin that had me flat on my face. It was providence. Thank you, Lord. I didn't have sense enough to say thank you then, right? At the moment, all I could say was, why, Lord? What, did you take a nap? I know the Bible says you never slumber or sleep. Did you take a nap? But now, later on, as I look back, I can say, thank you, Lord. So again, truth, beauty, and goodness, he gives us that. And we need to pay close attention to that so that we're pursuing that. His law, he gives us that. These clear directives, he gives us that. With truth, beauty, and goodness, we sort of move in that direction, and we get better at truth, beauty, and goodness. We develop that more over time. His law, it's either it is or it ain't, right? Truth, beauty, and goodness, you can go and you can make something, and you can become a tradesman, and you can become a better tradesman, and eventually a master tradesman, and you're way better off at truth, beauty, and goodness than you were when you started. You can develop in that. You can't start off kind of nibbling at the truth that he told you to not nibble at, and then eventually get better at not know it's either right or it's wrong. There's a difference between the two. When you're talking about the law of God, it's absolute. It's absolute. So, as men, number one, fight the urge that the culture has given us to sort of define ourselves by the 3 B's, right? It's not who we are. Number two, recognize that God hasn't left us wandering aimlessly on this. But right here in the Bible, right here in the beginning, right here in Genesis chapter 2, we have a picture of a man and his work, and the beauty of work, and the sanctity of work. It's good. Amen? It's good. And Christ even redeems the concept of work. Truth, beauty, and goodness that governs our work, the kind of work we do and how we do our work. And then the law of God that always reminds us that we are under God's authority as men. So we see ourselves in the context of our work. We see ourselves in the context of our relationship with God. And then in the last session, we're going to look at ourselves, looking down at the next paragraph, in the context of our family, in particular, our marriage. And see how all of this comes together, and how Christ, our Redeemer, really takes every piece of this and restores restores manhood after it's been marred by the fall of the first Adam. Let's pray. Father, thank you. You've been good. You've been more than good. You've been kind and merciful to us, and we're grateful. Grant by your grace that we would hide these truths in our hearts, and that you would use them to bring glory and honor to your name through our very lives, through our work, through our pursuit of truth, beauty, and goodness, and through our relationship to you as our God. Grant these things, we pray, in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. We'll stand together and we'll sing once more, 10,000 Reasons.